Hi there, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome to everyone who's present in this live premiere. I do appreciate it. Today, what I want to share with you are some new posts regarding the Dylan Rounds case, and one interesting one. We're also going to be looking back at the Missing Person Network website to do with Dylan Rounds. Some of you might be familiar with it because when we looked at it in the past, there was a lot of misinformation and outdated info. If you remember that, it was, I had to rotate the screen and it was hard to fit all the text in, if some of you can remember. And it had some of the court documents from the past, like a timeline of events, how they unfolded, but it wasn't the best. But from the looks of it, since going on to it this morning, it's been adjusted slightly. So that's what we're going to take a look at today. Check for the consistencies, but also see if there's any mistakes made or any levels of hypocrisy, contradictions, etc. Just like what we've normally done, okay? Now you might ask yourself, what prompted me to go onto that? Well, just recent on the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, there's been some new post by one of the key individuals upon the page known as Jazz Girlson, okay? And I think there's like 1 to 2 of them. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today, okay? As for those that may have not watched my recent videos, feel free to catch up when you do get the time. The video that I did cover last night was documenting the fact that my channel, me once again, was being silenced by other people out there with receiving those false copyright claims. They have spread elsewhere. If you want to hear more about it and the videos that were flagged, check out last night's video, okay? And yeah, as for that issue, there's not really much more I can say. I'm not in control of it, right? It just happens and I've just got to put up with it, like other stuff as well. So it's typical, but I guess when you are covering cases and themes like this, I guess maybe at times it's to be expected. You know, it's not deserving of it. You shouldn't have to be in that situation or put up with it. It's not right, but I guess it's just what comes with toxicity, okay? But that aside, today focusing on Dylan Rounds once again because of the new post. Maybe check some of the comments out on Facebook. As for comments on YouTube, I don't need to look at that because we did clear it up in the last video, I believe, or the one before that. So the rest of the discussions can follow now on in the comment section or in the live chat, because whilst people are live right now, you can share your thoughts, opinions and reactions, etc. okay? And just in general, once again, shout out to the regular people that watch the videos, and of course shout out to the people that watch in the background. Whilst at times I kind of joke about people lurking in the darkness, there are genuine people that do watch quietly in the background, and that's very good of them. I appreciate that. I know at times some people may have ended up leaving a comment just to show that they are present, but I do understand that. And I understand why some people will watch in the background just because it suits them better, which is perfectly fine. So shout out to all the people that are watching and continuously watch. As for the background, I do some like other little edits, different themes and topics out there, just experimenting to see what works and what doesn't. Okay? So that all being said and done, I think what we'll do first of all to kick things off is get right into the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page, also known as Dylan Rounds Legacy, and see what that's all about, okay? Right, to start things off, we've actually, I think, got a repost here by K9 Task Force yesterday at 2:43 a.m, I think. Says, deployed to Montana. Good luck, K9 TF member Laura Zara and everyone involved. Just scroll up there. Shows her, dog handler with the dog itself. Is there a caption as well above? Ah, here we go. So yesterday. So what, this was reposted or did K9 Task Force actually post it? It looks like K9 actually posted it to the Justice for Dylan Rounds Facebook page, the one what we're on right now. Oh, so it's more direct. So K9 said, another mission made possible by the support of everyone here at Justice for Dylan Rounds and our amazing supporters throughout Idaho, or Idaho as some people like to say that, and across the country. We were invited by the chief of police into their office, who presented us with a letter of gratitude and challenge coins from their department. Their effort involved in their case. We thank all of you for making that possible for us, the agency and the family of the victim. They're referring to Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds, Dylan Rounds' case. So that's good to see progression being made and those volunteer groups being helped out so they can continue pushing on further. We did actually look at a similar post to this maybe a week or two ago, and Candice Cooley reposted it. This might be another one, okay? So it shows that there is a level of success, but also the key location, them being deployed in Montana. Now, what's going on in Montana? Is there another missing person case out there, or several? If there's anybody watching right now, those from the US or in general, if you know, just feel free to fill in the blanks down below of if there's other ongoing cases out there, because I've heard of Montana creep up in conversation before in the past. So kind of interesting that. And it just goes to show once again, at least from how it's worded here, a third-party group is acknowledging Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds for their presence during that like money fundraiser charity event type thing, Ron's Tires, that barbecue cook-off back in June or July time in 2023. So it shows, I don't know if people would agree with it. Some positives have come out of all of this. Obviously, the main focus still is finding Dylan. Let's just scroll up. We got some other just random comments. Crime Con is happening in Florida this weekend. They have a wall for the missing, and I grabbed this screenshot. So I believe Crime Con has already happened by now. Is it completely over and done with? Maybe. I know Bob Farrell talked about it on his channel, and that there are some like preview videos and recaps by Nate Eaton's channel. I'm not sure if it's completely finished yet, but it's underway at least. And this person, I guess, was present at the time, saying that they've got a screenshot of it, like a poster board, says Dylan Rounds in the middle. Have you seen him? Now, it's interesting this because they're wording it as a missing person poster on that board. So is that board from the Crime Con event? Because if it was, doesn't it seem a bit outdated? Because the Dylan Rounds case is more so treated now as a recovery mission, trying to find his remains, whereas this poster indicates saying, have you seen Dylan Rounds recently? This is an old poster. So that's interesting in that. As for the surrounding board, what else does it say? Hold on to hope. We will find you, Dylan. So it's like words of encouragement. Keep on fighting. Thoughts are with you. Never give up. But you see one that shows up, and I don't know if I can zoom into it. Look, there's a message there. JLR investigates. So was JLR at the event of Crime Con? Because that's what it seems to show here. That's interesting. It definitely stood out. JLR investigates. Let me just zoom on out. There we go. So that's one of them at least. Comments, I guess we can... it's not available. That's unfortunate. Okay, apologies about that. I just fixed it. I'll be able to access the comments now, but as you can tell, the screen size has just messed up. There's nothing I can do about that at this moment in time. But let's just see what the comments are in response to that original post, what we saw. Amen, he'll be found. We love you, Dylan. Always praying for Dylan to be found and brought home. I just checked the comments out just to see if there's anything interesting. Here is the wall. Okay. So I can't really zoom in, but you see that photo on the left on the screen? That's the wall, the total one. Can I zoom in? Come on. Oh, come on! Why is it not doing this? Do you know what? This is crap. I'm sorry, but this is useless. Honestly, who thinks the layout of this is any good? So that's what the wall looks like. Unfortunately, I can't zoom in because it will kick me off once again. But basically, that wall there is the snippet of what we saw before. I can see Dylan Round's poster on that wall, but I can't show it to you because I can't zoom in, but hopefully you'll be able to see it. So technically speaking, that wall, parts of it are a little bit outdated. Interesting. But this is a total wall for all of the other missing people and the families that have, showed up to the event, if you remember. Okay. Praying you'll be found, Dylan. Thank you. I know my sister is speaking, and as a family member, we really appreciate the support everyone has shown us. Oh, yeah. Danielle Cooley, Hampton. Seen that person before. Right, can I back off this page without it kicking me? I can. As I said, apologies about the screen size. Just some photos there of sunflowers. There we go. So we will be checking this page out shortly, okay? It's called National Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims on 2023, National Remembrance Day, in the name of Dylan Round, so I guess that's why it's been brought up. Can I get rid of that? Oh, for Christ's sake. You see, I literally just changed it and it kicks me right off. You prick. Where's it gone now? So we've got that post there. There we go. National Day of Remembrance. Dylan went missing Memorial Day weekend of 2022. Evidence suggests he was murdered and a suspect is in custody. Please remember Dylan today on 2023 National Day of Remembrance for Murder Victims. And there's the blog there. Justice for Dylan. Check the comments. Just see. Prayers every day Dylan is found and justice served. Candice Cooley 21 hours ago saying he is missed more than words can ever describe. Someone called Ginger. Think of him every time I see. Prayers, prayers. Robert saying, is there anything new on Dylan's case? It's been quite a while and I just wish he was found. Good question. Jazz responds saying, if there was anything new to share, we would post it here in this group. This post is dedicated to remembering Dylan, not discussing the facts of his case. I hope you can understand. Yeah, so just the post itself was more to do in memory of Dylan and the event itself. So I get that. There we go. This one. Had the opportunity to meet Candice at CrimeCon over the weekend. She, Candice Cooley, exudes strength and her grief is so raw. I asked her the thing she'd want people to remember about Dylan and she said his work ethic. Hard work. Okay. Thank you, Candice. And there's a photo of them at CrimeCon. In the middle, you got Nate Eaton on the right. Then on the left, I think that's Daniel Robinson's father, if I'm correct in saying. Candice Cooley on the far left-hand side. Not sure about the other person on the right, unless the person on the right is who created this post. I don't know. Actually, maybe not, because it says through a speaker. Okay. So yeah, CrimeCon. I guess it's the same as Comic Con without dressing up. It's like hanging out, sharing thoughts, spreading awareness of whatever, right? More so with the CrimeCon, you know, victims, families, reaching out, helping one another and moving forwards, etc. What about the comments? Anything mentioned there? I keep the family in prayers. Love Candice. My heart breaks for family. Stay strong. So there's obviously a lot of support for Candice Cooley. You can tell that in the photo, Justin Rounds did not attend CrimeCon. Is there a reason to why? Did he not want to go? Was he busy? I wonder. But Candice Cooley was able to make it. Offhand, oh, that's to do with sunflowers. What's this one? What missing posters should be shared? Missing American Network. Maybe we can look at that afterwards. It was just basically summarizing it, saying the answer to that question is all of them. All of them are important, all the missing people. I think that's like an obvious point to make, right? As said, if you're just wondering, this Facebook page is all public like information. This is all publicly shown, okay? And the Facebook page group as well is open to the public, just for clarity there. Jazz Girls Insane, they have a lot to say and they have big plans to help other families. So inspiring. There's Nate Eaton, it's been reposted, saying Joe, Tara, Nicole, Jim, David and Candice, thank you for allowing me to help share your stories. Okay. So on the right, I don't know who that female is. It will be a missing person, I believe. In the middle is Daniel Robinson and then Dylan Rounds. Correct me if I'm wrong, is that female Gabby Petito or is that something completely different? Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I said, I don't follow every case out there, so I'm not going to know everything. Most recent, okay, so grateful, excellent job. Oh, so many of us families need help, especially missing males. Thank you. Ah, okay. I see. I get that reference there. Let's just see what the responses are. I agree with you. Is there anything I can do to help? We have to get these names out there more and get local agencies to bring new eyes in. We need answers. No parent should live like this. A constant living nightmare. We need our son Chance Engelbert brought home, and maybe just as if he was hurt that night. That's extremely the conversation that is happening with many advocates. It's sadly so widespread. I'll need to educate myself on Chance's story. Definitely need to get the names out there more, especially when the nationwide agencies aren't helping. Us families need answers, which includes the right help. Absolutely. See, this is the thing. Whilst it should be done like officially with the correct authorities in place, they should be maybe doing a better job than what they are and stuff. It relies to the general public at times to form together and make movement themselves. But obviously, you just also understand that, you know, it's for certain resources or just general public who might be helping one another. There's only so much people can balance on a plate, right? So obviously, the more people that are present or the more people just around in some way or another that can help. Just like with a missing person case, you know, you might be a lone wolf. You're trying to work it out just by yourself. It can get a bit too much at times, but if there's other people watching and sharing their thoughts and opinions, it can help. It can help and lighten the load at times. Just click off that one because I think we've mainly seen it. What else do we have? Hearing, that's an old one, that post. Sunflowers, like what we've seen recently. Is that mainly it? I think it might be, yeah. Has anything changed then? You know, out of interest, you know, when it gives like the description there. Dylan Rounds went missing from Luton, Utah on May 28, 2022, March. And then on March 3rd, 2023, a suspect was charged in his disappearance, Brenner, even though it doesn't mention his name here, which is odd. This group is created to coordinate information from the family to the public regarding the disappearance, search and fight for justice for Dylan. Ultimately, this group will be the new home of Dylan's legacy, which will help families in need when they have a loved one go missing. Stay with us for more information as that is launched. The views and opinions expressed by members of the group are those of the individual members. They do not necessarily reflect nor represent Missing in America Network or the family, who cannot be held accountable for views expressed in the group. Right, so it is branching out to Missing in America Network connected with this. No wonder why they've, you know, shared those links there. Well, speaking of that network, I think we should go over onto the website now just to catch up there and see how the website has been updated. Here we are. So I'm starting from the bottom and working my way up because it's in that order as for the dates and timing, right? So I don't know how much has changed, but we'll just go for it anyway and I'll give you my thoughts. If any of you notice any inconsistencies, you want to correct any information, feel free to do so down below in the comments section, okay? So it says 6th and 9th, 2022, first interview with Nate Eaton. The boots of a young man missing for nearly 2 weeks have been found behind a dirt pile on his property, but there's still no sign of a 19-year-old Dylan Rounds. What I do find interesting, it says the boots, found for nearly, a young man missing for nearly 2 weeks have been found. Well, the way that's worded there, at least, it's saying that after 2 weeks of Dylan being radio silent and presumed missing, after 2 weeks, the boots were eventually found. I don't know about that wording, at least from what I heard from Candice Cooley and more so Justin Rounds, especially in that Paramount Plus documentary. They worded it as, that went down on the 30th of May, and over the course of that day and maybe the next one and the next one, that's when they came across the boots within a few days. But the way it's worded here, it took nearly 2 weeks to find the boots just behind the dirt mound. So I still think that maybe this on screen is incorrect, right? Does anyone else agree with that? It seems a little bit dragged out. There's the original video. See, I don't know if this will help anyone, but, you know, if you followed this through, hopefully you can see it. So the middle of the screen, right at the very top of the screen, it actually gives the name of the site, missinginamericanetwork.com. Maybe type that in, and then if you got a search, use a search bar, type in Dylan Rounds, and then go on this website. And the reason why I say that is so then you may be able to track it a bit more easier, because as it's worded here, this supposedly on screen is the very first initial interview with Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, and Nate Eaton on East Idaho News YouTube channel when they did the interview. So if you are thinking of looking back, catching up on past interviews, and more so the original, here's one of them, okay? Up above, saying 6th to the 13th, 2022, Nancy Grace Crime Stories. Where is Dylan Rounds? There's Nancy Grace, who did appear at Crime Con as well recently. So she's covered the Dylan Rounds case. Did she have an interview with Jim Terry? I can't remember, or anybody else. If so, let me know how that went. So, okay, she's given her thoughts and coverage. 6th to the 14th, 2022, update with Duty Ron, or Duty Ron. Candice Cooley discusses the disappearance of her son. Justin Rounds not present in this one. This was one of the first initial interviews on Duty Ron's channel. Some people agreed with it, other people weren't too pleased, or not exactly in alignment with Duty Ron's coverage or something. I don't know the whole reason behind it, but yeah. This was all about spreading the story, the name, the case of Dylan, because at a time where it felt like maybe the LE were failing on the parents and Dylan Rounds more so, that she felt desperate action, extra help was needed in some way, or trying to find other platforms to get the story out there. So YouTube was a good example. Even though maybe certain family members have criticized it at times and others have generalized it incorrectly, they still relied on YouTubers at times to cover it. Okay. 6th of 14th, 2022, date missing in America article. Parents of Dylan Rounds hoping for a safe return. Okay, let's see. Dateline missing in America, Dylan Rounds. Dylan was last seen at Saddle Sore Bar in Montello, Nevada on May 26, 2022. On May 28th, he spoke with his grandmother, but that was the last time anyone heard from Dylan. On May 30th, he was reported missing. Later that day, his boots and maroon Ford truck were found on his property. Well, isn't this just another bit of a mess? We will go over it completely, but just hold on for a second. Everybody watching right now, you see that final bullet point where it says on May 30th, Dylan was reported missing. Okay, that's what Candice Cooley has said previously, consistency there. But it also says later that day, his boots and Ford truck were found on his property. Well, that's obviously incorrect. Now, this is the thing. This flyer or leaflet, whatever you want to call it, is old information for certain parts of it, right? But no attempt has been made to update it. And yet here it is on here, outdated. But you never know. Maybe if we scroll up and we look at the more recent relevant stuff, it might have made corrections, okay? Just saying. Just to correct it for anybody watching right now who may be new to the case or confused, I'll just try and set the record a little bit clearer, okay? I'll at least try to. So the first bullet point where it says Dylan was last seen at Saddle Sore Bar in Montello, Nevada, May 26. Yeah, he was in Montello at the time, but May 27th was the last time Dylan was physically seen near Saddle Sore Bar in Montello. At around 10 a.m., Dylan Rounds was supposedly next to Taylena, Kurt Wadsworth, and they were having a discussion or something. Kurt Wadsworth has spoken about that a few times, and also on the Facebook page recently when Kurt Wadsworth was using a dodgy alternative account in a sneaky way, which didn't quite work out, as we highlighted. But nevertheless, it was May 27th, Dylan was last seen in Montello, Nevada, right? Where it says May 28th, he spoke with his grandmother. Well, as you see, it's worded here, Dylan spoke with a grandmother. Now, to speak to someone would mean either a face-to-face verbal interaction or a digital form of interaction via a phone call. Now, over time, people have strongly said no phone call was made. It was only a text conversation, but the way it's worded here and the way it's been worded in the Dylan Rounds documentary by Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, and more so Karen Rounds, the grandmother, right, it was a phone call made, right? It's not really switched and changed too much that, but there is a divide in terms of thoughts. That aside, May 30th, he was reported missing. Yeah, later that day, boots and maroon Ford truck were found at his property. Now, Dylan's truck was found at his property locked up, and Justin Rounds supposedly broke into the back window of it. Well, not supposedly, he did. He confirmed that several times now. But the bit about the boots were found behind the dirt mound, which is 100, 200 yards from the grain shed property. Grain shed property in a completely different area, 5 miles apart from Dylan's farm. Dylan owning his farm, but not the grain shed property. He didn't own that at all. Okay, so the two items found in 2 different locations, just to clear that up. Age 19 at the time, height 5'11", and weight 160. So yeah, we've seen that stats there, but isn't it interesting how, scrolling back down here, how it says, after 2 weeks of Dylan being missing, the boots were then found behind the dirt pile. And yet this here says on the 30th, literally about 1 to 2 days after Dylan's death, or Dylan's going missing, right, the boots were found. So as said, maybe it's because it's done in the order of how things were worked out and how information switched and changed. If it's just documenting it all, then I understand in the timeline, right? But I will make corrections as we go along, just for the people that are new to the case so they don't get confused, right? It says here, 6th of the 22nd, 2022, update with Nate Eaton, first joint interview with Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds. Oh yeah, so apologies about that. Let me just go back over it. Apologies. So, I'm not going to play the video because I don't want copyright. I assumed then that, well, it says first interview with Nate Eaton. So, was this a video by Nate Eaton himself, just simply narrating over what happened? Maybe. I do remember there was just one video by Nate Eaton where he was actually stood up with sheets of paper near to a monitor screen talking through what was happening at the time. And then maybe it was after what followed with this joint interview, the very first one. That seems to be the case, because when looking at that thumbnail, that's the one that Cleo has recently demonstrated on her channel recently, looking back at the first interview with the actual parents, joint interview, Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds. Okay, fair enough. And that was 6th of the 22nd, 2022. As for Justin Rounds at the time, in the initial stage, Justin Rounds appeared more quieter and a little bit more withdrawn. But I'd say with time, you know, he has spoke out a little bit more, and that's been good. There's been a kind of like a positive progression. Of course, it'll vary at times depending on the emotions felt by the person going through whatever, right? That can change. Anyway, 7th of the 22nd, 2022, update with Nate Eaton. Dylan's 20th birthday is approaching and the family have plans to pay tribute to it. Yeah, I remember that one. This was the first and only news interview that I saw where Candice Cooley was on the verge of, tearing up, that she had to hold it back. I do remember that. And the only reason why I mention that is because up to then, there was quite a few people questioning where's the emotion from Candice Cooley. She wasn't really showing anything. But I guess once again, what you need to acknowledge is when it comes to Justin Rounds, how often have you seen Justin Rounds break down in tears? Not often, maybe never, unless you've seen something else. Yeah, Justin has spoken kind of with a soft voice and appeared quiet at times. His body language may show somebody who's deeply hurt. Yeah, maybe I guess people interpreted it with Candice Cooley. The fact that she didn't express herself in certain ways, but also facial expressions were quite straight too. That might be why people were criticising. But at the end of the day, both doing the interviews at that time with what was known. It says the 18th, 2022, update with Marcos Ortiz. Marcos Ortiz down the line did pass away, but at the time was involved with the case at ABC 4 News Utah. saying mother of Dylan Rounds demands transparency. Now, I believe this one was just like a news snippet in which Candice Cooley was being interviewed in some way, and she was inside of her own car at the time, or truck, pickup truck, whatever, and she was just basically referring back to the LE at the time, the way the case was being handled. 8th of the 23rd, 2022, update with Nate Eaton. Dylan's parents request a different agency to take over the investigation into their son's disappearance. This is ultimately where things really heated up because of the way the family felt the case was being handled by the LE. That even on the Find Dylan Rounds Facebook page at the time, there was like petitions made, people emailing Bucks Elder County Sheriff's Office, some people being blocked and rejected by them as well because of the sheer numbers. Candice Cooley also highlighting to people to reach out to the state of Utah regarding all of this. Did it lead to a success? Not really. I mean, the LE is still in charge. Bucks Elder County Sheriff's Office, they're still where they're at. So it's still ongoing. But I guess, in the words of Candice Cooley, roughly, things have kind of improved over time because we don't see her or them complaining ever since, right? So it must be better now than what it was back then, right? You see Justin Rounds there, just his body language appears a little bit more confident in a way. As said, I'm just making observations and that is all. The 10th of the 14th, 2022, update with Nate Eaton, new information, boots, phone, pistol, and more. Explosive new details. So I think I might be right in saying I think this was the first time it was talked about with the supposed key fob and gun being returned back to the trailer overnight. The exact dates weren't quite explained clearly at that point, but yeah, it's where it really came into play, and I think that might be where they mentioned about the NamUs report as well, that the police accidentally leaked it and Candice Cooley had to go against it in a sense to protect the case. As said, you will see the dates, some of them jump around so much, but that's just simply because East Idaho News only did so many interviews with Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds. In between, though, they did appear on other shows like Doug No Thanks, Duty Ron, maybe Sleuth Mom, Zav Girl, I think, etc. What do you have here? 2nd of the 21st, 2023, update with Nate Eaton. Nate Eaton of East Idaho News sits down with Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds for the latest information regarding Dylan's disappearance. So this is 2023. And this, February the 21st, I think. So this is past the point, right? I think this is where we're talking about wintertime previous, because to be honest, when we look back at this one, 10th to 14th, 2022, after it did go a bit quieter. You got wintertime kicking on in, getting a bit demanding there, right? So things were on halt. There might have been coverage online and talks and discussions and Dylan's legacy, etc. But in terms of boots on ground, it was vastly limited, mostly grinded to a halt officially because of the winter time. Fast forward into the new year of 2023, still winter time, things frozen over, problematic. But Candice Cooley, in this interview with Justin Rounds, did confirm that about 2 weeks beforehand of this interview, I think, or more so in January, that the pond of Lucin Pond was drained a second time and that the trees were annihilated, quoted by her, right? Cut down, chopped down, cleared, so then vehicles or something could get in up close to the water, and they dredged it and just double checked, and didn't find anything else. They were saying how they had to break through the ice and the ground was being quite hard, but so certain equipment was necessary at the time. And we saw it with Ty Corbin when he actually visited the place afterwards, which was good of him, documenting it and just saying this is what it looks like now. And it did look like a mess. You saw the tire marks in the ground. You saw big dirt mounds as well, bunched up from, I guess, being dredged from the pond area, and less trees than usual. I think a few other things were talked about as well, but that's just one of the main things that sticks in my memory. Take in mind, just about all of these interviews, I did do an analysis on my channel, summarising it all, mentioning the key points, adding on with my own thoughts, and also making corrections if necessary, right? So whilst I've documented it on my channel, at least you've got the dates here and the website to refer back to, because at least all the official formal interviews are on this website if you wish to check back to them, and they do provide the links to the videos, so that's all good. It says on here, the 3rd of the 3rd, 2023, breaking news with Nate Eaton. What was it? January, February, March. Yes, this is it. James Brenner, 59 years of age at the time, is charged with 1 count of aggravated murder and 1 count of use or desecration of a human body, according to Utah court records. Charges were filed Friday by Box Elder County Attorney's Office in Brigham City, Utah, with Nate Eaton. So I think this might have been it wasn't an interview. I guess it was just an on-the-spot update provided by Nate Eaton, narrating it from the looks of it. But this is around the time of where we started hearing some ground-breaking, shocking news, if you remember, such as with the phone, the video found upon it, as well as Brenner supposedly willing to open up as for the location of Dylan's remains. Here it says, the 3rd of the 7th, 2023, Dateline update, Dateline NBC coverage of a suspect being charged in Dylan's disappearance. So when you see some of these dates and news articles as it's worded here, there isn't a direct link to a video because it wasn't a video, but it's more so an article online. So where you see that kind of like, well, do you call it a rectangle? I don't know, a long-shaped box thing, and it says news article here. If you click on it, it will take you directly to the website, and then you'll be able to read the transcripts of it. Take in mind, I have looked at most of them anyway and documented it on my channel. But if you want to check it for yourself, here they are, and they're in the correct order as well. So that's all good, organised at least. Yeah, okay. 10 months later, suspect charged with murder of missing Utah teen Dylan Rounds on March 3rd, 59-year-old James Brenner, who is said to have been squatting near Dylan's property, was charged with the teen's murder. Do you know what's interesting here? I know there's that divide over time. Was Brenner squatting, yes or no? Quite a few people say, quite a few people say he wasn't squatting, but then others say he was squatting in the official reports and everything, and family say he was squatting. And linking back to Corey, who's aware of the area because of the land and had been, in control of it up to a point, said that Brenner was squatting, but there was some kind of like dodgy agreement in the background with the likes of Kurt Wadsworth or Ed Harshbarger, right? But nevertheless, the one thing I want to highlight here, which is very interesting, it says, well, at least the subheading of the article, the caption part, saying James Brenner, who is said to have been squatting. Who is said. Oh, maybe I misread that then. I was thinking it was like worded as he admitted to squatting. Forget that, it must have been just the language. Anyway, 3rd of the 8th, 2023, update with Nate Eaton. East Idaho News coverage of the charges brought against James Brenner in the disappearance of Dylan Rounds. There's the article. Now, I don't know if the actual... Is the video above? Maybe not. Maybe it links in with this one, whether it's in between or not. But I think in this thumbnail to do with the next interview, Candice Cooley, this is where she brought it up about Brenner willing to open up himself if some plea deal offer could be made, so the location could be revealed, and then Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds would make more progress. But it was in this video, thumbnail at least, where both Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds said about they turned it down, they couldn't accept it because it just wasn't ideal for them, and that they want to find Dylan Rounds themselves. Because their son, they want to bring their son home. So I get that, but I know a lot of people disagree. And Justin Rounds also said himself that he hopes that Brenner doesn't reveal the location regardless. That Justin wants to be the one to find Dylan. So if you interpret it in that sense, that yes, it shows that Justin and Candice Cooley are proud parents, that they want to be the ones. I get that. But for Justin Rounds to say, I hope Brenner doesn't reveal location, that's quite a vague line. You could interpret it as, if there was no plea deal, if there was no offer, let's just say on a random occasion Brenner was willing to talk, or let's just say the stress got to him and he basically confessed to everything, and more so the location of Dylan Rounds. Would that mean Justin Rounds would be disappointed? Even though Brenner could be confessing and making it easier for the parents and the case overall to get justice quicker, from what Justin has previously said, I hope that Brenner does not talk. Well, if Brenner did confess, then would Justin Rounds not listen? You know what I mean? Would that stubbornness kick on in? I'm not sure. Anyway, next date, 5th to the 30th, 2023. It's been 1 year since Dylan went missing. Whilst many enjoyed camping, boating, visiting cemeteries and spending time outdoors this Memorial Day weekend, Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds marked a horrible anniversary, the disappearance of their son. Yeah, I remember that one. What was talked about? I mean, I did cover it on my channel. It's hard to remember everything, as I said. Now, next thing though, the 8th of the 8th, 2023, Paramount Plus, Never Seen Again, released, Season 4, Episode 7, 8. 19-year-old Dylan Rounds goes missing without a trace from his farm in remote northwest Utah. Then Dylan's gun reappears mysteriously in his camper. You can stream this episode on Paramount Plus or Amazon Prime. So it's once again focusing on the gun, but not actually talking about the key fob here, which is a bit odd. But, you know, fast forward onwards, there we go. We got like screenshots of it. Dylan Rounds, Stranger in a Strange Land, Part 1. Dylan Rounds, Stranger in a Strange Land, Part 2. And this was August the 8th, 2023. I think that does tie in line. Take in mind, the dates do jump around so vast because it's all this official stuff and it wasn't all the time the coverage. My channel might have covered the case quite often, but in terms of the official news, there was breakups in between, course of months differences, right? So I know, I think Jim Terry did his coverage and some other people. Bob Farrell gave his own thoughts and reactions. I gave my own analysis on it from watching the documentary myself, both Part 1, Part 2, and noting down all the key interesting points. Once again, shout out to Watcher of Drama, the one responsible for providing people, general public on YouTube, to have access to the documentary free of charge. Very good of them. I know some people reluctant to watch it, others just completely didn't. The rest watched it, but I think most people's initial thought was, this is not looking good. And by the end of it, a lot of people were disgusted in the documentary, the coverage of it, and more so the lack of clarity and how it was worded and treated. At least my outlook on the documentary Part 1 and Part 2, it was a bit more positive because it actually revealed more red flags than ever before, which never really heard of before then. So like an example of one of the red flags was told by Heavy D. You know, he made an appearance in the interview documentary. And he was saying how during his flyby over, which I think was the 2nd of June 2022, around that point, the flyby, they were hovering over Brenner's trailer, but Brenner showed no sign of wanting to have a look or see what was going on. It seemed like he was trying to play it off cool and act as if he didn't see it. And Heavy D said that was a big red flag for me. So then I looked at it myself and I said, well, it appears from the image that Brenner was peeking around the trailer door inside, like he was trying to see what was going on, trying to be sneaky and not be detected, right? And normally if you start sneaking about, maybe it's because you think the presence of the helicopter is for you, especially if you thought it was a police one. You might think you're in trouble. You might think someone's invading your personal space, so you just have a little check what's going on. And maybe because Brenner's subconsciously feeling responsible, right, at the time, obviously. That's why he was kind of hiding away, because he wasn't sure how to react. The second red flag that was mentioned later on in the documentary by Candice Cooley said on the 30th of May 2022, when driving down to the place of Lucin, made a call to Don Hatley, or Don called her and gave her the green thumbs up to say, okay, I've checked the area. Now you can... Well, he didn't say I've checked the area, but he just said to Candice Cooley, from what Candice Cooley has said, that you can now report Dylan Rounds as missing. And Candice Cooley said that was very strange, how Don would give me permission to report my own son as missing. Yeah, it does seem a bit weird. It's like, how dare you tell me when and when not I can or can't do this? Is he your son? No. So if I'm going to report him missing, I will do it on my terms. Kind of like that type of situation. But we did look at it in recent time, trying to make sense of it. It was like one argument or one idea theory was maybe Don was searching about prior to it, just to double check to see if Dylan Rounds was trapped, hurt, or injured somewhere. And then upon confirming that there's no sight of Dylan, then he might as well be reported as missing, so they're not wasting police time, etc. But then the other theory was, what if Don was just clearing up or checking in, finishing up on the disposing of Dylan, or just making sure that everything that was done has been sorted out now and cleaned up. And then once that's done, Don was like, okay, Candice, you can call all the people in now and get on with it because we're sorted here. So there was a few red flags highlighted in this documentary which were never mentioned ever before. So I thought that was quite important. Now, besides that, why do we have that video here? And okay, so I think we've gone past a timeline now. I think that was the last known timeline of videos produced. This one up here is actually dating back to the very beginning once again. So this one has been uploaded in the wrong order. Is this the timeline? This is the timeline. It doesn't look like it has. It doesn't look like it's been updated from the looks of it. No. We did read it all out before, if you're wondering. Yeah. This one as well, that's not really been updated, has it? Nope. So I don't want to go through that now, just because it will cause confusion. We have seen this court documents, this is original stuff. Just like showcasing what's present here. Okay. So skipping ahead past August the 8th, we've got Monday, April 24th, 2023, saying at James Brenner's arraignment, he was appointed a new attorney and another hearing set for June the 5th and changed to August 14th, 2023 at a later date. Okay, so it's adding that in. Monday, August 14th, 2023, Jim Brenner, court appearance. Jim Brenner appeared in person in Utah District Court for the charges relating to Dylan Rounds' disappearance. His counsel requested a continuance for more discovery, and it was scheduled for October the 2nd, 2023 at 1:30 p.m. And obviously, we're still anticipating that. So at least it gives a clear update here, and it has added on to this website, which none of this was mentioned beforehand. So parts of this website have been refined a little, so it kind of makes it a bit easier to follow, which is a positive, right? And I guess just the way it's been worded here may be a bit different to how we've heard it worded elsewhere. It's more formal this way, a continuance for more discovery. For more discovery. What, for on Brenner's side, there needs to be more discovery to see if there's a better defence, or they can get the story straight before it does come up, the court appearance. What does it exactly mean here? I wonder. Let me know your thoughts down below. Obviously, we got Brenner there, the way he's dressed and stuff. We did do an analysis on that. The body language, playing the footage, giving my thoughts. Now, that video itself, I think under 500 people saw it, only about 400, which is very disappointing because it was a very critical, important, hands-on video, which covered interesting material away from, the typical coverage. But, it fell flat. But I think most people got the message from looking at the, interviews by Nate Eaton and Candice Cooley outside of the courthouse. I don't think it might be mentioned here, but around this time, this one, Monday, August 14th, around there, that when Brenner was entering and leaving, he was limping and appeared to look like a wounded animal. Candice Cooley and Justin Rounds in agreement that he was putting it on for sympathy. Even now, he does have an injury with his leg in the past and is on disability allowance and in chains as well, which does restrict movement. But you can understand Candice Cooley, Justin Rounds, having kind of like trust issues in a way, not knowing exactly what is what, because they said themselves in the past, because the way the case went and the way the LE were, that it left them second guessing and doubting themselves. And it's not good, that, but it can happen. We've got some older posters and flyers here, if you remember. And is this more so at the top? Dylan was born on August 1st, 2002 to Justin Rounds and Candice Cooley. He is the oldest of their 3 children who all grew up living the farming life. Dylan loved it. He had big dreams to own and operate his own large farm. In 2019, Dylan and his grandfather partnered on land in Lucin, Utah, for Dylan to start working towards his dream. He spent 2 summers getting his land ready to farm, and in the spring of 2022 was finally ready to plant his first crop. He worked late into the night on Friday, May 27th, to get his seed planted before the rain came. Saturday, May 28th morning, he spoke with his grandmother on the phone, and that would be the last time anyone spoke with him. Not texted, but spoke verbally, digitally. Interesting. Let me know your thoughts about this, because this summary is kind of interesting in a way, but I just want to know your thoughts on the matter. Leave your comments down below regarding it. The way it actually states that Dylan worked late into the night on Friday, May 27th to get his seed planted before the rain came in. Now, they're wording it is as like a fact that it did happen. Now, what they're basing it off, how did they get that info? They're basing it off the campers, hikers, camping out on or near Little Pigeon Mountains, which does overlook Dylan's farm. And obviously later they reported to Candace Cooley about it, did a handwritten letter and explained what they saw. So that's why it's been assumed as, okay? That because a farm, some lights are on a tractor at Dylan's farm. They find out it's Dylan's farm, it must be Dylan. I know some people don't agree with that, but that's just like how it's gone. Dylan Jamie Rounds. I'll be honest with you, I've never really seen the middle name of Dylan Rounds because it's never really been worded fully, but there you go. It says, went missing from his farm in Lucin, Utah, May 28th, 2022. Family leads the movement to find answers to what happened to Dylan. On the 3rd of the 3rd, 2023, James Brenner was charged with 1 count of aggravated murder, desecration of human body, according to Utah. So, and he remains in custody. So yeah, I'd say it has been adjusted, the timeline and the relevant information and how you can get a hold of it, the access to it. So there's kind of positives there. But, if you noticed any contradictions or mistakes made, be sure to highlight it down below, okay? So I think there's been maybe slight positive improvements there on that website. As for the Facebook page, I guess a few of those posts were mainly driven by the fact of the CrimeCon event, summarising that, referring back to it, I get that, and then that National Remembrance Day of missing or true crime related cases, I get that as well. See, this is the thing, and I did say how over time, even when there's moments of silence, if there is an anniversary coming up, some kind of special event to celebrate or just to look back on in respect, whatever it might be, right? That's where you might get little boost responses of information, some intel, okay? I know other people get information in different ways, whether it's right or it's false, but you will still get official updates, but it's probably going to be really stretched out more than ever now, which is unfortunate. But, October the 2nd and onwards, you might get a shift in something. I don't know if Candace Cooley, Justin Rounds will do an interview with Nate Eaton or not, but I guess time will tell, and it is closely approaching. Now, I'm just trying to think. I think I might be wrong. I might actually be wrong. It's either the 1st or the 2nd, but 1st or 2nd of October, I have a dentist appointment, and I don't like dentists, okay? And at least the one I've gone to, you could say money hungry. That's all I'll say. But what a bloody day. What a bloody day. Oh yeah, we've got Dylan Rounds coverage and news coverage. Oh no, but I've got to go to a bloody dentist, okay? Now, if I was to go to the dentist and I looked up at the bright light and it was Tyler Feller looking over me, maybe I would have more comfort. Well, some sort. Or if the person that leaned over to said, it's time to inspect your mouth, open your mouth. Who could it be? Would it be Nance? Would it be Misty? I don't know who it could be. Would it be Indiana? I hope that if I do sit back in the chair, providing it hasn't reclined too much, that when I look up, I hope you're not leaning over with a drill piece and an industrial saw blade to cut some holes in my mouth. And you got your measuring stick as well. That's great to know. That really fills me with confidence. But you know, if Indiana becomes a dentist or not, whatever happens, happens, right? We'll see what happens there. In the meantime, if there's coverage to do, that's what I will do. I will try and work on a Kenny Veach M-Cave map analysis video, like how I said in reference to last night's video, when I get time and when I can focus. Sometimes it is hard to focus. Today, it was kind of hard to focus, some stuff going on. But aside from all of that, hopefully you enjoyed the video and found it of some use to you. I guess it's kind of like a summary video and also looking back at certain new, and well, also acknowledging new posts as well, like the impacts and positive effects of that canine dog unit, how it's had, you know, it's helped them in other ways. So yeah, I think we've come to a full circle here. So at the end, feel free to leave comments down below. And if you've got questions, if you want to visit, check out the links as well. They'll be below in the pinned comments section. And yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye and good night for now.